Today I'm going to tell you about the Ferryman the Manjusaka, a film in which the new Mungpa is 300 years old but is only a child and turns into a big snake that eats people. Until I watched it with tears in my eyes, I didn't understand why this online film is so popular. The word of mouth is also very good. Legend has it that the Book of Life and Death in the Underworld is divided into 2 volumes. The Yin Scroll records life and death and is hidden in the depths of the underworld. The Yang Scroll contains the merits and demerits of a person's life and is entrusted to the Lord of the Yellow Springs for him to examine past ghosts. The master of the Yellow Springs is Mungpa. The current Mungpa is a beautiful and graceful woman. All the ghosts who have passed by have praised her. Mungpa is not only beautiful, she's also very skillful. She used 8 tears as a drink to make the delicious Mungpa soup. By drinking it, the ghosts can forget all the sorrows and joys of their past lives and be reincarnated with ease. On this day, it's the once in 300 years hidden day. The yin and the yang interacted with each other, and the Yellow Springs became windy. The living can follow the wind into the Yellow Springs. Mungpa really welcomed a living person, the monk Nameless. He wants to enter the underworld to get back what is rightfully his. As a token of his sincerity, he offered a precious seed of Manjusaka. But Mungpa is the Lord of the Yellow Springs and will never allow the living to enter the underworld. She then used all her kung fu to stop the monk, but she didn't realize that he had already learnt the body of an Arahat. The blood of the Arahat is the most powerful weapon to kill Mungpa. Mungpa died. The monk entered the underworld as he wished, but his memory was erased. The monk became Zhaoli, the messenger of the underworld. Once the current Mungpa died, her daughter Sanchi became the new Mungpa. Although Sanchi is 300 years old, she is still a child. She took over the Yellow Spring, which has no flowers or leaves within 100 miles. After another 300 years, Sanchi grew into a young woman. Although most of the Mungpa are made of the spirit of heaven and earth and have a 7-voiced soul. But Sanchi accidentally lost one of them at birth, so her appearance is not beautiful and her character is too simple. But as a Mungpa, the Mungpa soup she makes is unpleasant to smell, look at and drink. This Mungpa soup is supposed to be made with 8 tears. But the last Mungpa only mentioned the first 7 tears. He wanted to tell the 8th tear when Sanchi grew up, but he didn't expect to die. But more than Mungpa soup, Sanchi was more concerned about Manjusaka. When his mother died, everything around him changed. Only the Manjusaka offered by the monk has remained. But for hundreds of years, it never bloomed. The scene changes. Changsheng is a monk. When he was young, he practiced kung fu and his soul left his body and was caught in the Yellow Springs. He was almost eaten by Sanchi because of his sweet smell. Fortunately, Zhaoli came to his rescue, but this experience left a deep impression on him. The bright-eyed Sanchi was also deeply imprinted in his mind. Therefore, 12 years later, Changsheng once again ventured into the Yellow Springs without risking his life and also into Sanchi's life. From then on, Sanchi's Manjusaka had a new owner, Changsheng. Apart from taking care of the Manjusaka in the underworld, Changsheng would also introduce the things in the yang world. Changsheng would draw birds, animals, flowers, fish, and insects, and then tell Sanchi about them. After Changsheng's departure, Sanchi longed for life on Earth. Sanchi began to look forward to the interesting things he would hear next time. However, the simple-minded Sanchi didn't understand what this meant. She only knew that she would be happy when Changsheng came back. But she didn't realize that Changsheng would not only bring joy, but also sorrow. It turned out that Changsheng's elder sister was also Changsheng's beloved, Huaningshue. She died of a serious illness. In order to see Huaningshue once more to clear his mind, Changsheng is here in the Yellow Springs. They were in love, but now they are separated from each other. He has to wait day after day to see him again. Such a touching story breaks the hearts of those who hear it and brings tears to the ears of those who listen to it. Even Mungpa Sanchi is no exception. When her tears fell into the Mungpa soup, she finally realized that the 8th tear her mother said was Mungpa's tear of sadness. She also realized that she had already fallen in love with Changsheng. Changsheng hasn't come for a long time since that day. Sanchi was finally struck down by lovesickness. It said that bitter medicine is good for the disease. But the medicine that cured Sanchi was Changsheng, who came here in a hurry, not bitter at all. At first, Mungpa Sanchi, who thought day and night about how to eat Changsheng. In the end, Changsheng ate it. She knows that Changsheng's lover is Huaningshue. But now, she is still in love with him. Afterwards, she gave Changsheng a gold hairpin and got his promise of a sea of flowers. The two of them decided to get married, but Changsheng, in his mortal form, is unable to stay with Mungpa Sanchi, who has an eternal life. Therefore, according to the laws of the underworld, on the day of Mungpa's wedding, the scrolls hidden in the depths of the underworld will be invited to the Yellow Springs and tick off Changsheng's name so that he can leave the cycle of reincarnation. Like Sanchi, he will have an endless life. The wedding, as promised. It was also hidden day. Outside the house, the sky was dark and the wind was howling. According to the procedure, Chang Xing needed to remove his name from the Book of the Dead. But what he ticked off was Hua Ningxue's name. At that moment, Chang Xing revealed himself as Hua Ningxue. The real Chang Xing is outside the Yellow Springs. Just as the ghosts were about to take Hua Ningxue down, San Chi shouted to stop him. At that moment, she saw that Hua Ningxue was wearing the gold hairpin she gave to Chang Xing. But her heart has become a decoration for someone else's hair. However, as long as Chang Xing likes it, and as long as Chang Xing is happy, it doesn't matter if San Chi is sad or in pain. She decided to let Hua Ningxue go, as long as she got back the scroll. Unexpectedly, Hua Ningxue snatched the scroll. The ghosts went after her, but Chang Xing's master, Chen Shi, stopped them. It turns out that he set up this whole thing. 600 years ago, he entered the Yellow Springs by mistake and met San Chi's mother. Since then, one man and one ghost fell in love and had a love child, San Chi. However, on the day of their wedding, Chen Shi was greedy for the mortal world. In the end, he only ticked off half of his name and fled. On his way out, he stole a piece of San Chi's soul. He injected it into a clay figure and turned it into a human form, Chang Xing. Although his lifespan was prolonged, he could not escape death. In order to keep Chang Xing alive, he took advantage of Chang Xing's love for Hua Ningxue. He lied that Hua Ningxue was seriously ill so that he could trick Chang Xing into coming to the Yellow Springs to win San Chi's affection, so that on the wedding day, he would invite the Yin Scroll and tick off the name on it. To ensure that the plan goes smoothly, in the name of Chang Xing's immortality, he summoned expert fencers from all over the world to help him to seize the scroll. At this time, Chang Xing, who was guarding the Yellow Springs, felt very guilty when he learned of his master's plan. Then he suddenly realized that he had always said that the person he loved was Hua Ningxue. He had never thought that Hua Ningxue's charming eyes were just like San Chi's eyes back then. In fact, the person he really loves is San Chi. His beloved is in deep trouble. Chang Xing didn't have time to think about it. He took back the Yin Scroll and rushed to the Yellow Springs. Unexpectedly, San Chi has been seriously injured by the expert fencers. He tried to save her, but he was no match for the expert fencers. The scroll was taken away from him. At this moment, looking at the unconscious San Chi, Chang Xing was in great pain. Obviously loved her but repeatedly deceived her. But now it's all too late. Chang Xing decided to return his soul to San Chi to show his remorse. But he was stopped by San Chi, who woke up. San Chi loves him and wants him to be good. She wanted nothing more. She gave Chang Xing all her 5 souls, leaving only one for herself. Afterwards, a weakened San Chi returned to her original form. She ate Chen Xing, who was fleeing in panic. He took back the scroll and tried his best to send Chang Xing away from the Yellow Springs so that he wouldn't be chased by the ghosts. At the end of the film, San Chi, who has only one soul, takes all the blame. She uses Zhao Li's Aloha blood to die as an apology, so that Chang Xing won't be hunted down by the underworld. Since then, Menpa is no longer in the Yellow Springs. But that day, this deserted land welcomed the return of Chang Xing. Back then, he made a promise of a sea of flowers. Now, the promise is still there. A tear fell from his eye and Manjusaka grew on the ground. Manjusri blooms for 1,000 years and falls for 1,000 years. Chang Xing spent 1,000 years waiting for San Chi to come home. People say there are 3 stages of death. The heart stops beating. This is physical death. The funeral is over. This is social death. It's complete death when you're forgotten by everyone. If that's the case, then San Chi has never died, because Chang Xing still remembers her and still loves her. Because of love, the clouds above her head, the wind in her ears, the flowers in the mountains are all San Chi.